Hi everyone, and welcome to the Enthusiastic Buddhist. In today's episode, I want to look at exploring what the Buddha said about who we really are and what is our true nature. And in particular, I want to look at the 5 defilements and their relationship with the nature of our mind. If we recap a little bit about the Four Noble Truths, you'll remember that the Buddha pointed out that our minds are constantly in a state of dissatisfaction, that no matter how well one facet of our life is going, for instance, whether we have the perfect marriage or the perfect job, there will always be some other facet that we're dissatisfied with, be it our health, our appearance, or our relationship with our relatives, for example. And underlying all this is this constant craving for something to be different or better. So no matter what we do, we never seem to reach that point where we're ultimately happy and satisfied about the way things are. Now, the important thing that the Buddha taught was that this dissatisfaction isn't intrinsic. It's not that the external phenomena are faulty in any way. Instead, the Buddha pointed out that if we're looking for happiness in things outside of us and all we're finding is dissatisfaction, then we're just looking in the wrong direction. The Buddha said the main thing we fail to realize is that happiness doesn't actually come from external phenomena, but that it comes from within our own minds. And that if we purify our minds of the defilements, such as anger, jealousy, and pride, then everything external will appear perfect, because we will have eliminated the very cause for our dissatisfaction, which were the defilements, and the main culprit among them being our own craving. The Buddha actually listed 16 defilements that our minds could experience. He said, "And what, monks, are the defilements of the mind? Covetousness and unrighteous greed are a defilement of the mind. Ill will is a defilement of the mind. Anger is a defilement of the mind. Hostility, denigration, domineering, envy, jealousy, hypocrisy, fraud, obstinacy, presumption, conceit, arrogance, vanity, negligence is a defilement of the mind." Now, from that list, you can see that many of these defilements are actually similar in nature, so they're often grouped together to form the 5 major defilements of the mind, these being craving, hatred, jealousy, pride, and ignorance, which are also known as the 5 kleshas or the 5 poisons, and they can be further reduced down to form the 3 unwholesome roots, which are craving, hatred, and ignorance. Basically, because all the multitude of negative thoughts that can arise in our mind will spring from one of these major 3. The Buddha really taught that all our misery in the world is really due to our minds experiencing these defilements. And unfortunately for us, our minds are predominantly always in one of these 3 states. It's either craving for some future happiness we hope to achieve, we're feeling angry about something, usually because our desires haven't been met, or we're looking outside of ourselves for happiness in external phenomena. And if we're doing any one of these 3 things, our minds will be agitated, unhappy, and dissatisfied. So the panacea the Buddha prescribed for all our mental sorrows was to follow his teachings, which really are a path of purification, to purify our minds of these defilements and our negative karma. The Buddha said, "To avoid all evil, to cultivate good, and to cleanse one's mind, this is the teaching of the Buddhas." So by following the Buddha's teachings of practicing pure moral conduct, meditation, and wisdom, these will help us to reduce and eliminate our negative karma and defilements of the mind, and to increase our positive karma and positive mental states. And as we continue to practice these 3 foundations of morality, meditation, and wisdom, what it culminates in is a purified mind that's free of craving, hatred, and delusion. In essence, a mind free of the defilements. So the great news is that these defilements of the mind are not intrinsic or something we cannot remove. They're all transient in nature, and they're seen as something separate from the true nature of our mind. The Buddha taught that the nature of our mind is intrinsically pure, but over time it has been adventitiously covered by obscurations and defilements. The true nature of our mind is said to be inexpressible, cannot be put into words and is beyond concepts, spacious, it's not confined or limited to this body, translucent and intangible, and pure, bright and luminous. One analogy we can use to describe our mind is that our mind is like a precious diamond. It's beautiful and clear and radiant, but over time we've just covered it over with mud, the mud being our negative karma and defilements. And so it's really just a matter of scraping away these defilements and karma to reveal the true nature of our mind. Another popular analogy which I used in a previous video is that our mind is like the sky, in that it's clear and spacious, and that our thoughts and defilements are simply like the clouds passing by. You know, they might drift in, and for that time we can't see the clear blue sky, but the cloud's presence doesn't actually change the sky's true nature. So in the same way, these defilements of anger and craving are momentarily obscuring the natural tranquility of the mind, but they aren't changing its true nature. So this is great news. This means we are not our anger, we are not our desires, and we are not the mental suffering we often experience. And neither are these defilements something we have to contend with forever, because they're not who we are, nor are they part of our true nature. So given that these defilements of the mind are impermanent and adventitious, they can be diminished and eventually eliminated so that they don't arise again and continue to obscure the natural radiance of our mind. But this is where our effort comes into play. We need to actually put the teachings into practice if we want to diminish these defilements and their hold over us. But if we continuously make effort to practice morality by practicing right action, right speech, right thought, and practicing meditation and wisdom, slowly but surely we will bring to the surface this luminous nature of our mind. The Buddha said, "Luminous, monks, is the mind, and it is defiled by incoming defilements. Luminous, monks, is the mind, and it is freed from incoming defilements. Luminous, monks, is the mind, and it is defiled by incoming defilements." The uninstructed run-of-the-mill person doesn't discern that as it actually is present, which is why I tell you that for the uninstructed run-of-the-mill person, there is no development of the mind. Luminous, monks, is the mind, and it is freed from incoming defilements. The well-instructed disciple of the noble ones discerns that as it actually is present, which is why I tell you that for the well-instructed disciple of the noble ones, there is development of the mind. So what the Buddha appears to be saying is that for the average person who hasn't been introduced to the true nature of their mind, and they have no idea of what actually lies within them, they have no incentive to practice morality, concentration or wisdom, so there is little or no development of their minds towards liberation or freeing it from the constraints of the defilements. Instead, these people will continue to be trapped in their ignorance and believing that happiness lies outside of them. Whereas for the person who has been given the teachings on the mind's luminous nature, and they're now slowly starting to release the grasp of the defilements on their mind, they will have some small glimpses of the mind's tranquil and blissful nature, and their minds will develop towards freedom and liberation of the defilements entirely. Now, the luminous nature of our mind is said to increase the more we practice morality and meditation. It's almost like each time we meditate, we're slowly scraping away the karma and defilements and allowing the luminosity of the mind to become more apparent. And there are certain stages of meditation that the Buddha talked about prior to experiencing enlightenment or some kind of awakening. And he called these stages jhanas, and there are 4 of them, each having their own distinct characteristics. And the fourth jhāna is the last jhāna we pass through. So by this stage, a meditator would be quite free of the defilements and able to watch them arise and pass away. And because there's no longer any grasping at their desires or aversions as much, this would allow the luminosity of their mind to shine even brighter. The Buddha said for a person entering the fourth jhāna, and furthermore, with the abandoning of pleasure and stress, as with the earlier disappearance of elation and distress, he enters and remains in the fourth jhāna, purity of equanimity and mindfulness, neither pleasure nor pain. He sits permeating the body with pure bright awareness, so that there is nothing of his entire body unpervaded by pure bright awareness. Just as if a man were sitting wrapped from head to foot with a white cloth, so that there would be no part of his body to which the white cloth did not extend, even so the monk sits permeating his body with pure bright awareness. There is nothing of his entire body unpervaded by pure bright awareness. So here the Buddha is telling us that this luminosity is actually no different from our own pure awareness. This luminosity is our mind, our consciousness, our awareness. And as we meditate and our concentration increases, this awareness also increases. Now, we might not necessarily be able to perceive this light and luminosity of our mind right in the beginning, but it's common as we begin to meditate to feel a sense of spaciousness increasing in our mind and to have a feeling that our awareness of the environment is opening up and expanding. I believe this is a good indication of the mind beginning to free itself from the constraints of karma and defilements, because as we start practicing and we become more aware of our mind and more aware of the present moment, we will stop falling into our habitual patterns of dwelling in those defilements. So we will stop holding on to anger because we'll see the futility of it, that it doesn't help us or anyone, and we'll be able to let go of our cravings more easily because we'll see how much suffering they cause us as well. I really want to dedicate a whole video to each of the defilements of craving, hatred and ignorance, because I think these can manifest in our lives in a variety of ways and we wouldn't even realize that we're under their influence. But as we practice meditation and develop our mindfulness, we will start to see these defilements more clearly and the myriad of ways that they can arise in our mind. And slowly but surely, we will be able to eliminate them and prevent them from arising. The Buddha said, "One by one, little by little, moment by moment, a wise man should remove his own impurities as a smith removes his dross from silver." So if we start today and we start to reduce these defilements of our mind, then it's really just a matter of time before we slowly start to see the purity of our mind becoming more manifest. And the benefits of our minds becoming more pure and free of these defilements is us having a mind that is peaceful, serene, joyful, and no longer looking for happiness outside of us. Basically, we'll begin to realize that the source of our happiness was inside us all along. The teachings often describe us as being like a poor person who is looking everywhere for wealth and happiness, but we didn't realize that we were actually carrying inside our pockets this rare and precious jewel. You know, a jewel that could grant all our desires. So in the same way, we're so confused, we're looking for happiness outside of ourselves, but we're not realizing the preciousness of our mind. The source of all our happiness is actually within us. So that's all from me for this video. I hope this has helped you recognize that there's something extraordinary within us all, and it's just a matter of us turning our attention inwards to be able to see it. And also, I hope you can now see that we really shouldn't identify with our defilements of anger and the like, as they're merely like clouds and not something permanent that will ever obscure our mind's true nature. So thanks everyone for watching. Please like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos, and also check out my website enthusiasticbuddhist.com for more on Buddhism and meditation. So take care everyone, have a great week, and I hope to see you in the next video.